Hi, good day everyone. Welcome to the second session of um, paper 2, number 2. Most likely we will also incorporate, instead of just number 2, we'll incorporate number 8, because I don't think there's 10 Saturdays between, well, 8 Saturdays between now and the exam. Yeah? So today, what we're going to mainly focus on, and if we have time, we'll do also number 8, is paper 2, number 2. Now, the section being tested for number 2 is section 6, which is algebra. Topics that, because right before I wrote down these topics, I did the past papers. The topics that are mainly tested on is factorization, simplification, algebra, fractions, transposing or making the subject of, inequalities, and then there's a next topic which which is incorporated with simplification, which is our laws of indices. Right? So the laws of laws indices, indies, D-I-C-I-E-C-I-E-S, right? I think I spelled that wrong. But anyways, right? So these are the topics that you're being tested on majority of the time, right? Um, so today, this is what we're going to do. Now, these are your topics that I went into great in depth. With factorization, these are the different types of factorization: basic factorization, factorization of four terms, factorization of a perfect square, factorization of the difference of squared terms, factorization of quadratic, simplification of algebraic term that includes algebraic fractions. Then we have addition and subtraction and multiplication and division of algebraic terms. Then we have using, to simplify, we do use the laws of indices, right? Then we have basic inequalities. They don't really go really in depth with the inequalities. You do have to make or solve for x or whatever they may ask you to solve. And then transposing, that is making the subject of, that is a next name for it, which is the backwards of BODMAS. Majority of the time, again, with maths, there are always exceptions. And if we see the exceptions, I'll point them out. Right now, first thing we're going to go through is laws of indices. Very quickly, I'm just going to go through them very quickly. I'm not going to go in depth in them. When we are multiplying and your bases are the same, you add your powers. When you're dividing and your bases, when I say the bases, everybody understands what is a base and the power of, right? Power of the bases. Okay, good. Your bases are subtracted when we divide, right? A to anything, a power raised to a power, when you see brackets here, this is what I mean by a power raised to a power. We multiply, right? Anything raised to a power of 1, whether it is a letter, number, anything, is the base, right? Anything raised to the power of 0, whether it be a number, letter, anything, is 1, right? When you have a fraction raised to a power, you put in that power in both the numerator and the denominator. Anything, a base raised to a negative power can turn to a positive power by putting 1 over the base to the positive power. And then a to the power of a fraction, your numerator in that fraction is your power, and your denominator is your root. Right, so if I have 49 to the power of a half, it would be 49 raised to the numerator, which is 1, and it would be root, what is the denominator? 2, so it would be root 2. Right, and the square root of 49 is 7, so that would be the answer. Right, and that is basically your laws of indices that you have to remember, especially for simplification. Right? I didn't really go through into simplification when we're doing it in the past papers because there's a large things that we have to go through. I can't really teach that topic, right? Um, the next thing is your basic factorization. Um, right. Basic factorization, if I have a to the power of x plus b to the power of x, your first thought is what do they have in common? If two terms have something in common, we can put, so if, what do they have in common? They have x in common. So you'll ask yourself, x multiplied by what is your first term and x multiplied by what is your second term, right? whatever is going in the brackets here, the boxes here will go in your bracket. So x by what? X by a will give you ax. X by b will give you bx. With practice, you don't need to do this. You'll just be able to just look at it and be able to do it quickly. All right, now one of the things that you have to remember, and I forgot to write it, is your powers, not your powers, sorry. Is this a plus multiplied by a plus is a positive, a negative by a negative is a negative, and a positive by a negative is a, sorry, a negative and a negative is a positive. A positive and a negative is a negative. So if the signs are different, negative. If the signs are same, we like that same signs, you have a positive sign, right? And this is learned because when we have here ax and bx, what they have in common? X, right? X by what would give you ax? X by a is ax. Then we look at x by what would give you negative bx. Do the signs first. A positive and a what would give you a negative. A positive and a negative will give you a negative. So you know that box is going to be negative. And then deal with the letters. X by what would give you bx, x by b. Right, so you know that it will be a in your first term in your bracket, and your second term in your bracket will be negative b. Right, then a 6x squared plus 3x, we deal with the number first. What does 6 and 3 have in common? They have, or what is the LCM? You would say LCM? No, not the LCM. What number could go into 6 and 3 at the same time? 3. And then what does x squared and x have in common? 2x. Right? So you multiply that 2, 3 by x is 3x. We know that 3x. And then you say 3x multiplied by what would give you 6x squared. Again, deal with the numbers. 3 by what is 6? 3 by 2 is 6. X by what is x squared? X by x. So you know that that would be x squared. Then 3x by what would give you 3x? 3x by x. Right? Then we have ones with different signs. We have negative 6x squared minus 3x. You realize that both of them have negative, so because both of them have negative, what they have in common is negative. And well, 6 and 3, what could go into 6 and 3 at the same time? 3, and then x squared and x would be x. So it'll be negative 3x by what would give you a first term, a negative and a what would give you a negative and a positive would give you a negative. So you know it's positive. And then 3x by what would give you 6x squared. Deal with the numbers. 3 by what is 6? 3 by 2. X by what is x squared? X by x. Yeah? And then negative 3x multiplied by what would give you negative 3x. A negative and a what is a negative. Negative and a positive. So you know positive. Then 3x by what would give you 3x? 3x by 1. So you know your first term in your bracket is 2x. Second term in your bracket is positive 1. Right? And that is how this is basically basic factorization. It may not be x squared or 3x. If they have numbers, both of them have numbers, you ask yourself what they have in common. And when you're looking at the letters, you're looking to see which letters they have in common. Right? Whether it's be x, m, p, depending on what the question is. Yeah? Let's go on to, I think I went on to factorization of 4 terms. Very quickly, it's a 3-step process. The first step is if you have to factorize 4 terms. For step 1, take the first pair of terms and factorize it. Step 2, take your second, the last 2 terms and factorize. Step 3, if the brackets are the same, right, I'll show you an example. If the brackets are the same, make into 1 and whatever is outside the brackets will be placed in your final answer. Alright, so now, as I was saying, step 3, if the brackets are the same, you make into 1, and whatever is outside the brackets will be the next bracket in the final answer. For example, if I have x squared minus 5x plus 2x minus 10, take the first 2 pairs, which is x squared minus 5x, factorize it. That's basic factorization, x by x minus 5. Then 2x minus 10, factorize that. What could go into 2 and 10? 5. 5 by x, no, 2, sorry, not 5. 2 by x will give you 2x, and 2 by what would give you 10? 2 by minus 5. I realize that you see how my brackets are the same. So these 2 brackets are made into 1. This is your third step. And what is outside? X and plus 3. X and plus 3 will be combined and you'll get it into the next bracket. And that is how you would factorize. Does not always have to be a quadratic, but please know this because when we reach into factorization of quadratics, at some point you'll have to do this. Alright? Look at this. This is 4 terms. You take your first two pairs, 10mr and 4nr. What does 10 and 4 have in common? 2. What about mr and nr? R. So you know 2r by what would give you 5mr. Deal with the numbers. 2 by what would give you 10? 2 by 5. R by what would give you mr? R by m. Then 2 by what would give you 4? 2 by 2. And r by what would give you nr? R by n. So you know it's 2r open bracket 5m plus 2n. That is your factorization of the first one. Minus 15ms minus 6ns. Again, they both have negatives, so you would have a negative. And then 15 and 6, what they have in common? 3. And ms and ns, what they have in common? S. So negative 3s by what would give you 15ms, negative 3s by 5m, and negative 3s by what will give you 2ns? 3 by 2 is 6. S by what is ns? S by n. Alright? So the next bracket is 3s open bracket 5m plus 2n. We see the brackets are the same. Make it into 1, and whatever is outside the next, whatever is outside, which is 2r minus 3s, would be in your next bracket. And that is how you would multiply this. I mean factorize. Factorization of a perfect square. First step is to identify a perfect square. What is a perfect square? You have two squared terms and your last term is, so you have term 1 is a square. It have 3 terms. One term is a squared term, your next term is a squared term, and then your last term is the product of 2 multiplied by the square root of your first term multiplied by the square root of your second term. Alright? Step 2, find the square root of the 2 terms. Alright, 2 squared terms. So, step 3, check the sign in front of the non-squared term. That will determine whether you add or subtract. Right, step 4, the sign in step 3 will tell us to add or subtract the answers from step 2 in brackets and put the entire thing to the power of 2. So if I have 64x squared plus 80x plus 25, I will check to see square root of 64, x squared is 8x, square root of 25 is 5. So I'm going to check, is 2 by 8x by 5 80x? It is. So yes, this is a perfect square. That is how you check to see if it's a perfect square. Right? Then, after that, we found out the square root of the two squared terms, which is 8x and 5. The sign in front of your last term, which is 80x, was positive. So I know I have to add 8x plus 5, and I'm going to put it to the power of 2. If this was negative 80x, it would be 8x minus 5 all to the power of 2. So whether you add those two, the two squared terms, the square root of the two squared whether you add or subtract in your factorization, all depends on that sign in front of your last term. Then these are the general forms. I have a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. I know that there are two squared terms, a squared plus and plus b squared. I have the square root of a squared is a, the square root of b squared is b. The sign in front of that term here is positive, so I'm going to add a plus b all squared. This one here, if I have a squared minus 2ab plus b squared, square root of the first term is a, square root of your second squared term is b. I'm going to subtract because the sign in front of your non-squared term is minus. Right, and that is how I would get this answer. Right, now, factorization of the difference between two squared terms. If you see you have to factorize and you say, well, there's nothing in common here. But you look at it again and see that there are two squared terms and you're subtracting. So step 1, check to see if it's squared terms. Check to see the terms are squared and they're subtracting each other. That's step 1. Step 2, find the square root of the two squared terms. Alright. Step 3, open and close two brackets. One bracket is going to have plus and the next one is going to have minus. So you're going to add the answers you get in the second step, which is when you find the square root of the two squared terms, you're going to add those two terms and then you're going to subtract these two terms. So if I have 9a squared minus 4b squared, 9 and a squared are both squared terms, and 4 and b squared are, if this confuses you guys, and you're like, Miss, how would I find the square root of that? You say square root of 9 multiplied by the square root of a squared, which is 3 multiplied by a. The square root of 9 is 3, square root of a squared is a. That is how you get 3a. Same thing with this. 4 multiplied by b squared. That is the relationship between 4 and b. Find the square root of this. Find the square root of this. This is 2 multiplied by b, which is equals to 2b. Right? So now the square root of my first squared term is 3a, and the square root of my next term is 2b. So I'm going to add 3a plus 2b and 3a minus 2b, and that is going to be your answer for this question right here. Then we have factorization of a quadratic, which again is 8 steps. Step 1, identify a, b, and c. A is your coefficient of the unknown squared. B is the coefficient of the unknown by itself with no power. And C is the constant. Alright? Please notice that. Right? Then step 2, find AC. Step 3, using the pairing method, find the factors of AC. Pairing method is you use your small numbers to find the larger numbers, right? Step 4, using the pairs, only the pairs, okay? We don't just choose numbers randomly. We are using only the pairs. You add or subtract to get whatever b is equal to. Then you replace with b, you replace it with the pairs of numbers obtained in step 4, right? Step 5, we now have 4 terms, and we all know how to factorize 4 terms, so I won't go into it because this is basically me copying and pasting. Step 6 would be you factorize the first 2. Step 7 would be you factorize the last 2. Then if the brackets are the same, you make it into 1, and whatever is outside the bracket will be the next bracket in your final answer. So these are 2 past paper questions that I just copied and paste. X squared plus 2x minus 35. A would be the coefficient of x squared, which if you're not seeing it is 1. B is 2, C is 35. Don't worry about the negative. The only time you really need to worry about that negative sign is if B is negative. And I'll show you an easy step to do that, right? AC is 35. You find your factors of 35. These are your pairing method. 1 by what is 35? 1 and 35. So 1 and 35 is your first pair. Then 2 could go into 35? No. 3? No. 4? No. 5? Yes. 5 by what is 35? 5 by 7. That is your next pair. Between 5 and 7, there is 6. Can 6 go into 35? No. So these are all my factors of 35. Then you ask 1 and 35. If I add or subtract that, would I get 2? No. What about 5 and 7? Yes, 7 minus 5 is 2. So in the place of b, you're going to put 7x minus 5x. So it's x squared plus 7x minus 5x minus 35. You take your first 2 terms, factorize it. Take your next 2 terms, factorize it. Then, after you factorize it, which I kind of left out as... Oh, yes. No, I didn't. Right? I see that my brackets are the same. Once my brackets are the same, that is one bracket, and the next bracket is going to be whatever is outside, which is x minus 7. Right, as b. Then the next one, this is when b is negative, which is, pay attention to this, please. A is 5, b is minus 9, c is 4. Everyone understands how to identify a, b, and c? Alright. Then you multiply a by c, which is 20. Find the factors of 20. 1 and what with 20? 1 and 20. That is your first pair. 2 and what with 20? 2 and 10. 3 could go into 20? No. 4 could go into 20? Yes. How many times? 5. There's no number between 4 and 5, so these are all my factors of 20. B is negative. Now, if you're not good with direct numbers or negative numbers, I would say for now, ignore that B is negative. What 2 numbers, when you add or subtract, would you get 9? Which 2 pairs? Not 1 and 20, not 2 and 10, but 4 and 9. 4 and 5. 4 plus 5 is 9. But we don't want positive 9, we want negative 9. So to change that positive 9 into negative 9, we simply multiply by negative 1. 4 by negative 1 is minus 4. 5 by negative 1 is minus 5. So B is actually negative 4 minus 5. And then we know that one of the steps is in the place of B, you're going to put negative 4x minus 5x. So it's 5x squared minus 4x minus 5x plus 4, factorize it. We have our 4 terms. You know, you take your first two pair, factorize. You take your second two terms, factorize. Please note that for quadratics, your brackets must be the same. If it is not the same, you need to check back your pairs and see where exactly, most likely would be a pairing that you use. Right? Your brackets have to be the same. So, and that is how you would get this answer. Are we good so far? Because I'm going to start on the past papers now. January 2020, number 2, paper 2, number 2. Okay, so now let's zoom up because that is pretty right. The question is a little bit blurry, but they said factorize each of the following algebraic expressions, so we are factorizing x squared minus 49. First thing. Alright, so first off, x squared and minus 49 have nothing in common. Hello? Yeah. Okay. Okay, I heard a beep. Alright, but these are two squared terms, and we know that the rule we just now learned, difference of two squared terms are find the square root of two terms and you add and subtract them. In one bracket is add them, in second bracket is subtract. Square root of x squared is x, square root of 49 is 7, so you add x and 7 and you subtract x and 7. And this here, guys, is a lovely 2 marks, I believe. Hold on. That is an easy 2 marks once you know the rules. Hold on, do I not have the marks? Oh, no, there's 1 mark. Part B, this is a quadratic, which we just now did. This is what I took from it. Identify A, B, and C, multiply AC, find the factors of AC using a pairing method, which pairs of factors when you add or subtract. It has to be the pairs. Don't forget that. When you add or subtract, will you get B? When you find your pair, you replace B with that pair. Then you have 4 terms, and we know how to factorize the 4 terms. And this would be your answer. Okay. Right, this question here, as soon as you see something like hence, that means that from the answers that you got above, use it. They told you hence simplify the expression. X squared minus 49 we know is x plus 7 and x minus 7. X squared plus 2x minus 35 is x minus 5 by x plus 7. What do we have in common? X plus 7, so that cancel out each other. So the answer is x minus 7 and x minus 5. And that is the answer for this question here. That is an easy 3 marks, right, so far. Then we have this, which is making the subject of. Now, when you're making something the subject, you always go backwards from BODMAS. So, what I mean by that is backwards from BODMAS is subtraction first. Is there a subtraction here? Yes, you're trying to make M, and whenever we're trying to find the subject of something, we always like our unknown to be positive. M in this case is negative M squared. We want that M to be positive, so you carry across M squared, that minus M squared. Anytime you carry something over the equal sign is the opposite. So the opposite of minus is plus. So you have S plus M squared is equals to K. Yeah? Then we have is equals to K. Is there addition? Yes, we carry across add S, which turns to subtract S. We have M squared is equals to K minus S. The next one is subtraction, addition. Then we have multiplication. No. Is there division? No. Is there power of? Yes. That power of 2. The opposite of power of is root of. So M would be the root of K minus S. And that is how we would make something the subject by going backwards from BODMAS. Lisa has $56 to buy a total of no more than 70 balloons, red balloons and green balloons for her party. That is an inequality right there, which we'll go into just now. She buys more green balloons than red balloons. That's the next one. She buys more green than red. But she must buy at least 15. So for the least amount, she must buy 15 red balloons. That's the next inequality. Each red balloon costs 75 cents. So one red balloon is 75, one green balloon is 50. Alright? Let X and Y represent the red and green balloons respectively. What they mean is the order they list out X and Y is the order the balloons is going to be. So X is going to be red, Y is going to be green. Write two inequalities in X and Y other than X is more than equals to 0, Y is more than equals to 0 to represent the information above. The first one is this one. I wrote the easiest one, which she must buy at least 15 red balloons. So for the least amount is 15, so X, which is red, must be more than or equal to 15. It cannot be less than or equal to because the least amount she's buying is 15. So that is the easiest one there. Let's go with number 3. Number 3, they said, number 3 inequality, the total amount of red and hold on, this is supposed to be less than. When they said Lisa has $56 to buy no more, nothing more than 70. So we know for the most she's buying 70 balloons. So this is wrong. This here has to be when you add up all the X's and all the Y's, which is all the red and all the red balloons and all the green balloons, it must be less than or equal to because they say no more than. So it cannot be more than 70. So what is more than less? So that would be less than or equal to. Right? Then the next inequality, which is pretty easy, they said she buys more green than red. Green is Y, so Y must be she buys more is more than, so green is more than X, red, right? Then this one is the one that's a little bit tricky, which is the cost. They told you the cost of one red balloon is 75 cents. So the cost of any number of red balloons would be 75 times X, where X is the number of red balloons, right? And then the number of green balloons, one is 50 cents. So any number of green balloons would be 50 cents times Y. So if we add those two up, they said that she has only 56. So anything more than 56 would be out of bounds, right? So it would be 75 cents X plus 50 cents Y is less than or equal to 56, and that is going to be your 4 inequalities. They only asked for 2, so you could have simply said X is more than or equals to 15 and Y is less than X, and you would have gotten your 2 marks. Yeah? Because they didn't tell you, they just said write 2 inequalities. There are 4 inequalities in this question, you write any 2 of them. Okay, so now let's go into the next question, which is this one was 2 marks and then that was it. Okay. This they like to bring this. I realize they like to bring questions like this. Oh, that's the next topic, which is inversely proportional to, oh, sorry, directly proportional to inversely proportional to. Given that y is inversely proportional to x minus 2, which means that that statement means y is proportional to the inverse of x minus 2 is 1 over x minus 2. So that's how this statement, y is inversely proportional to x minus 2, would be y is proportional to 1 over x minus 2. Right? Now, when you change this in this proportion equation, not equation, this proportion statement to equation, the proportion sign turns to equal and you multiply whatever it is proportional to by k. So this is how I got y is equals to k over k, which is a constant, over x minus 2. Do we understand this so far? Right. Now they told you, that is just a statement there. They said when x is 11, y is 9. So they're telling you what x and y, it was the relationship between x and y. You put it in the equation. 9 is equals to k over 11 minus 2, which 9 is equals to k over 9, We want to find k. K is a constant, means it does not change. The only thing that changes is x and y. So if I make k the subject, if I carry across divide by 9, it tends to multiply by 9. So k would be 9 by 9, which is 81. So your constant is 81. So now when they said find the value of y when x is 29, you put it into the equation that we have. Y is equals to 81 over x is 29, 29 minus 2, so y is equals to 81 minus 27, which is equals to 3. And that is how you would do this type of question. Right, and that is the end of January 2025, paper 2, number 2. Now we're going to do May, June 2024, paper 2, number 2. Alright, they said, Laura, excuse me, and this is basic measurement, so I wouldn't even count this into, but we should understand what is perimeter and area, which is basic, things that we should know, yeah? And it's basic shapes that they would give you anyway. So they said Laura needs to put mesh around 2 seed banks. We have this one and this one. To protect her seedling. Altogether, she used 60. So if we go all around this one and all around this one, it's going to be 60 meters. That's what they're telling you. Alright? They said the width of the rectangular seed bed is x. So this is x. The length is 3 times its width. So the seed bed, the rectangular seed bed, the length is going to be 3 times x, which is 3x. The length of the side of a square, right, is y. We know the perimeter of a rectangle is length by breadth times 2, and perimeter of a square is x times 4. You put that in, you get, and they told you using the information given above, derive a simplified expression for y in terms of x. So they're basically telling you, can you please calculate what y is equal to? So we know that the total perimeter would be 8x plus 4y, and this is going to be equals to 60. Yeah, because they told you that altogether it's 60. And then we see that what could go into 8, 4, and 60? 4, right? 4 into 8 is 2, so 2x. 4 into 4y is y. 60 divided by 4 is 15. So I have 2y plus y is equals to 15. What do I want it in? We want for y. What is y equal to? I carry across 2x, it's going to turn to minus 2x. So y would be 15 minus 2x, and that would be your answer for this question. Yeah? Anybody is confused about this? Or are we good? Everybody good? Okay, great. Alright, part B. Let's zoom in. The area of a rectangular seed bed is equal. The area of the rectangular bed is equal to the area of the square seed bed. Use this information and your answers in A1 to write down a quadratic equation in terms of x. So we know that the area of your seed bed is 4y, and this they ask you in terms of x. But from this part, we know that y is 15 minus 2x. So the side of the side of the seed bed, the square seed bed, would be 15 minus 2x. Alright? They told you that they're equal, so the area of your rectangular seed bed would be 3x times x, which is length times breadth, which is 3x squared. The area of your square seed bed would be y, which is 50. We're not using y, we're using x. So 15 minus 2x by 15 minus 2x. Now, if we remember, this is just a quick way to multiply two terms and you're squaring it. If you remember a perfect square, you remember that a minus b squared was a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Remember that? Or we went the opposite, right? We had this, a perfect square. Now, you can do the same thing here. This is a and this is b. A squared, which is 15 squared, is 225. B squared, which is 2x. 2x by 2x is 4x squared. So we have that, we have that. And then this middle term is negative because this is minus 2 by the a and b, which is 15 by 2x. 2 by 2 is 4, 4x, and then 4x by 15 is minus 60, and that's how you would get this. This is just an easier way. Once you understand a perfect square, you understand that this is it, it's going to be very easy to multiply things like this very quickly. You square your two terms, and then you find 2 multiplied by whatever is in the bracket here. Alright? And then they said they're equal to each other, so I'm going to let x squared be equals to 225 minus 60x plus 4x, and I want it to be equal to 0. Right? So, because they tell you to show that it is this, yeah? When I say 3x is equals to this, I'm going to carry, and I want it to be equals to 0, so I'm going to carry this across. If I carry across plus 3x squared, it's going to turn to minus 3x squared. Right, so 4x minus 3x is x. Then we have minus 60 plus 225 is equals to 0, and that is how you would do part B1. Then they said solve the equation using quadratic formula. They would not tell you to factorize this, to solve the equation using factorization method. Why? Because these numbers are pretty big. Alright? So when you have large numbers like this, I would recommend that you use your formula. Alright? Okay, so now your quadratic formula, if you don't know it, is in your formula sheet, is minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. In these steps, whether it is factorization or the formula method, we simply have to identify a, b, and c. A is 1, that is the coefficient of x squared. B is minus 60, that's the coefficient of x. C is your constant, which is 225. You put it in the formula. When you're putting it in the formula, put your brackets when you have your number. So it will be minus, open bracket, minus 60, plus or minus the square root of open bracket minus 60 squared, minus 4 by A, which is in the brackets 1 by 225. Right? Now the next step is to remove your brackets. So a minus is a minus, a plus, you get 60x squared. Minus 60 to the power 2 is positive 3,600. 4 by 1 by 225. If you want to do the signs first, I would recommend. A minus and a plus is a minus, and a minus and an x plus is a minus. So it will be minus. 4 by 225 is 900. 3,600 minus 900 is 2,700. So it's 60 plus or minus the square root of 2,700 over 2. Square root of 2,700 is 51.96. Alright, so x would be 60 plus 51.96 over 2, or x is equal to 60 minus 51.96 over 2. When you solve it, you'll get x is equal to, x is equals to 55.98, or x is equals to 4.02. When I always want to put the one decimal place, so x is 56 to one decimal place, and x is 4 to one decimal place, and that would be your answer. That is how you use your formula. All right. This one, calculate the total area of the seedbed. Right, the total area was x squared plus 15 minus 2x all squared. Yeah? That's what we said here. The area of your rectangular seedbed is equal to the area of the square bed, so they're equal to each other. Oh, no, they want the total area. Total area would be add the two. Right? Now, when x was 56, you're getting a negative answer, especially when you put it in this. So the area cannot be a negative answer because you have a feel, right? You can't find a negative number. But when x is positive, when x is equals to 4, you will get 97 meters squared would be your total area of your two seed beds, and that is be the answer for this one. So that is the end of May June 2024 number 2. Now we're going to start on January 2024 paper 2 number 2. Right, so number 2a says x squared plus 7 over x squared minus 49. Simplify. So you have to ask yourself, how am I going to break this down? Can I break it down? Can I divide? No. So the best way to simplify this is factorize it. You know that the numerator, the top part, is basic factorization. What could go into x squared and 7x, which is x open bracket x plus 7. What about x squared minus 49? That is difference of squared terms. We know that you find the square root of both terms and then you put one bracket as addition of those two terms. We're going to have subtraction. So it's x over x minus 7. And that is the answer. There's no way you could break this down again. Right? Then this question here is laws of indices. We know that when our bases are the same and we're multiplying, you add your powers. So 2 plus 6 is 8. X to the power of 8 would be x to the power of r. So therefore r is equals to 8. Let's say find for s when s is s to the power of 3. Basically making it as the subject. Carry across the power of. We know that anytime we carry across the power over the equal sign, power of over the equal sign, it turns to the root of. So we carry now to the power of 3, so it will be the third root, or root 3. You put this in your calculator, you'll get 2. And that is how you get this answer. Alright, and let's go to the next question. The diagrams below show a triangle and a quadrilateral. All angles in degrees are written in terms of A or B. Now, we know that we're looking at internal angles. The internal angles of a triangle is 180, and the sum of internal angles for a quadrilateral is 360. If you do not know it, please remember this formula. The formula is n minus 2 by 180 would give you the sum the sum of interior angles. Right, that is the formula for it. Now, n is your number of sides. There are 3 sides. 3 minus 2 is 1. 1 by 180 is 180. So we know that your triangle is 180. Your quadrilateral, which is a 4-sided shape, is 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 by 180 is 360. So that's how I know that the sum of interior angles is 180 on 360 for the triangle and the quadrilateral respectively. Show that 2a plus 5b is 176. You're adding up everything. A plus 2, B plus 3, B plus A plus 9 is equals to 180. Now, when you're doing questions like this, you have different terms. You group like terms. You're going to group A, cross that off. Is there next A? Yes. So A plus A. Then we have 2B. Is there next B? Yes, 3B. So A plus 2B plus 3B plus 9. This is supposed to be a 9. It's 180. That's 2a plus 5b. We have that. We don't have 180. We have 171. So we carry across plus 9, which is the minus 9. So that is how you get 2a plus 5b is 171. The same thing for the quadrilateral. You add everything there, make it equals to 360. Group like terms, when you break it down, you'll get 7a plus 8b is 342. Then you have to solve a pair of simultaneous equations in 1 and 2. The equation for 1, the equation for 2, and find the values of a and b. Show all working. Oh, a and b. Oh shucks, I didn't find for b. Hold on. So when you have a pair of simultaneous equations whose coefficients are not 1, we use elimination method. You pick a term that you want to eliminate. You want to pick A or B. If it's picking A or if it's picking B, it's all up to you. When you pick a term that you want to eliminate, you take the coefficient of the A's, and that will tell you how many times you have to multiply the next equation by. So the coefficient of A in equation 1 is 2, so that means I have to multiply equation 2 by 2. The coefficient of A in equation 2 is 7, so I multiply equation 1 by 7. 2 by 7 is 14, 5 by 7 is 35, 131 by 7 is 1197, 2 by 7a is 14a, 2 by 18b is 16b, 342 by 2 is 684, right? What do I have to do with these two equations to get rid of a? I subtract 14a minus 14a would give you 0. 35 minus 16 is 19. 1197 minus 684 is 513. So b would be 513 divided. I carry across multiply by 19, which turns to divide by. So b is equals to 27. Then I substitute b is equals to 27 into which equation? You have 1, 2, or 3. It's all up to you. So 2a plus 5 by b, which is 5 by 27, is 171. Excuse me, you make a the subject, you carry across 135 over the equal sign, you get 171 minus 135. So 2a is equals to 36. A would be 36 divided by 2, so a is equals to 18. And that is how you would do this. Now, please note that there is a way in your calculator, depending on the type of calculator you have, your sharp calculator, how to solve simultaneous equations. This is just to check to see if it is correct. Right? You go on mode, you go on equations, you go on, it's two value, because there's the two unknowns. A1 would be your first, that is 2, B1 is 5, C1 is the answer, 171. Now you have to make sure if you put in A first and then B, your next equation have to be A first and then B, right? Equals A2 is 7, B2 in your second equation is 8. This one is 3, 4, 2. You press equal, they will give you A, which is your first value, is 18, and B is 27. And that is how you could use a calculator to find it. Now, not every calculator could do this. So to go back, you go at mode and 0 for normal. What you can do is substitute these equations, substitute these values into equations. 2 by 18, close bracket, plus 5 by 27, close bracket. Am I going to get 171? Yes. So I know that these two solutions works for equation 1. Then 7 by 18 plus 8 by 27. Am I going to get 342? Press equal. I do get 342. So I know that the answer that I have gotten, or that I solved, works for both equations. So if your calculator cannot, give you the answer, solve the answer, you can always just check it by substituting these values into equation 1 and equation 2. You need to make sure it works for two equations. If it does not work for two equations, then something is wrong with your answer. You need to check over. And that is the end of January 2024. May, June 2023, paper 2, number 2. They said to simplify 4 over 5x by 15x over 16. Now, if you're not good with division or fractions, I would multiply it out first. 4 by 15x is 60x, 5 by 16x is 80x. I separate, I put the numbers over the numbers and the letters together. The relationship between 60 and x is multiplication, and 80 and x is multiplication. So 60 over 80 multiplied by x over x. 60 by x is 60x, 80 by x is 80x. So we can see that I just separated them. 60 and 80 is 3 over 4, and x is cancelled out. So when I simplify this, I'm going to get 3/4, and that is the answer. Do we understand this? Yeah, if you want, you could do this. But remember, the only thing I would say is remember that you only compare numerators and denominators, right? So you could have said 4 over 5x multiplied by 15x over 16. 4 into 4, 1. 4 into 16, 4. 5 into 5, 1. 5 into 15, 3. X's cancel off, and I get 3 over 4. It's all up to you. Once you can see it, you can do it like this as well. Yeah? Now, inequalities. One thing with inequalities is that we always read from the number, the letter, right? This is not that case, but we want um, m to be positive. So if I were to carry across minus 4m, I'll get plus 4m. However, minus 8m plus 4m is going to give you a negative. We don't want negative. So this is why I carried across the 8 minus 8m first. 8m minus 4m is 4m. This is less than or equal to, I carried across the 12, so 5 minus 12. So I have 4m is less than or equal to minus 7. If I carry across 4 by itself, opposite of multiply is divide by 4. M is less than or equal to minus 7 over 4. So m is less than or equal to minus 1 and 3/4. And that would be your answer. Now, if, let's just say, for some reason you forgot that m is supposed to be positive and you carried it across, alright, I'm going to do this in red. 12 minus 4m, 5 minus 8m, and I carried this across, and I carried this across here. I would have 12 minus 5 is minus 8m plus 4m. That is 12 minus 5. What am I just saying? 7. Positive 7 is less than or equal to negative 4m. Now, I want m to be positive. There are two things that you can do. If you're carrying across multiply by negative a number, to change it into positive, right? This sign is going to flip. However, I don't like that because most people tend to forget. So what I like to tell persons is if your unknown is negative and you want it to be positive, you simply multiply the entire equation by negative 1. Negative 1 by negative 1 by positive 7 is negative 7. When you multiply an inequality by negative 1, it flips. So instead of less than, it's going like this. Negative 4m by 1 is positive 4m. Carry this across. So negative 7 over 4 is m. Now, this is the part that you have to remember. When you are looking at something like this, you always want to read from the letter. So you would have to read from this, go back. So because you're reading backwards, this sign is flipped. So it will be m. This is how you'll read it. M is instead of more than or equal to, it'll turn to less than or equal to negative 7 over 4, which is negative 3 1/4. Which is a lot of things that you have to remember. Yeah, so if you could just remember, I want my m to be positive. You would shift your terms across your inequality sign to suit to make sure that your unknown is positive. Alright, so you won't have to deal with this, and remember that you have to you have to multiply by negative 1. If you multiply by negative 1, your sign flips. Also, you also have to read from your number and from your letter, not from your number. Right, and that is how you would do this question. Do we understand this, guys? Alright, next one. Right, this question here is a next parameter area question. The diagram below shows a compound shape LMN PQR, which is made up of two rectangles. Length in the diagram as shown in terms of x, and centimeters. Find the expression in terms of x for the length of PQ. PQ is this, which is your difference between 3x and x plus 3. So you simply minus 3x minus x minus 3 minus by a positive x is minus, x minus by a positive 3 is negative 3. So you have 3x minus x is minus 3. So you get 3x minus x is 2x, 2x minus 3 is just 2x minus 3. Now, yeah, and that would be your answer for this question here. Do we understand this, guys? Anybody confused? No? Okay. Then they want RQ. RQ. That is the difference between 4x minus 5 and x plus 1. You would subtract it, group like terms, then please note that you're subtracting x plus 1. So minus by positive x is minus x, and minus by positive 1 is minus 1. So if you're subtracting, it will turn to minus x minus 1, okay? And you'll get 3x minus 6. And that would be your answer for this question right here. They then tell you, given that the total area of the shapes is 414. So when you add those two, you get 414. Show that this is equals to 0. So area of, I called it A, just so I called it, yeah, I call the shape A, right? And I call the next one B. Area of A is length by width. Length is 4x minus 5. Width is x plus 3. Then area of B would be x plus 2 by 2x minus 3. You multiply it out. I'm not going to teach you guys how to do this because you should be able to. You take your first term, multiply by a second bracket, and then you take your second term and also multiply it by your second bracket, right? So the area of A is 4x plus 7x minus 15. Area of B is 2x minus x minus 3. You're going to add these two and make it be equals to 414. Group like terms, all the x squares, all the x's, all the constant terms. So you would get 6x squared plus 6x minus 432 is equals to 0. You're going to divide the entire thing by 6 because we want x squared. How would you turn 6x into x squared? You divide by 6. 6x squared divided by 6 is x squared. 6x divided by 6 is 6. And then we have 432 divided by 6, which is 72. And that is how you get this answer. Alright? Okay, let's go. And that is the end of May, June 2023. Now we're going to start in January 2023. Right, January 2023, 2A, part 1. If we look at it, this is a power raised to power. Power raised to power laws of indices. You multiply 3 by 2 is 6, so it'd be 8 to the x to the power 6. This one a power raised when the bases are the same and you divide and you subtract your power, so it'll be 8 minus minus 5, which is 8 plus 5, which is 13. Y to the power 13, and that is the next question. Next one, factorize. This was basic factorization. You ask yourself what they have in common. They have y in common. Y by x minus y. Right, you can do it like this and you'll get the answer. This one is the difference of two squared terms. You find the square root of x squared, you find the square root of y squared. That's x minus y in one bracket and x plus y in the next bracket. Hence simplify. I told you guys when you see hence simplify, you're using what you know. From above, this one was y by x minus y, and the bottom part was x plus y by x minus y. X minus y have in common, so you cross that off. Y over x plus y, and that is your answer for this question. Alright, and then we have this. They like to bring these area questions, boy. Or perimeter. They told you the diagram below shows two rectangles M and N with dimensions in terms of x. Given that the difference of the two areas of rectangles is 64, show that this is equals to this. You find the area of this, you find the area of this. Area of a rectangle is length by breadth, so you're multiplying x minus 3 by 3x plus 4, and the next one is x plus 2 by x minus 3. We know when you're multiplying like this, you take your first term, multiply by a second bracket, and you take your second term, which is plus 4. First term in your first bracket, multiply by a second bracket is x minus 3. Take your second term in your first bracket, which is 4, and multiply by x minus 3. When you multiply it out, you'll get 3x minus 5x minus 12. You do the same thing for the next one. When you multiply it, you'll get x squared minus x minus 6. They told you the difference, meaning you're subtracting. Now, when you are subtracting, please note that the one that you're subtracting have to go in brackets. Why does it have to go into brackets? Because you're negative in everything here. So 3x squared minus 5x minus 12 minus x squared minus and x squared is minus x squared minus and minus x is positive x minus and a minus 6 is positive 6. So 3x squared minus x squared group like terms, right? This goes with this. Minus 5x goes with plus x. Minus 12 goes with plus 6 is is um is equals to 64, but we want it is equals to 0, so you carry across plus 64, which turns to minus 64. You'll get 2x squared minus 4x minus 70 is equals to 0. But we want, if you look at the question, we look at the coefficient of x, that is the coefficient of x squared is 1, but we have 2x. You ask yourself what go into 2. How would you change 2x squared into x squared? You divide the entire thing by 2. 2x squared divided by 2 is x squared. 4x divided by 2 is 2x. 70 divided by 2 is 35, and that is how you can show that the difference between the two rectangles is this. Yeah? And that is the end of um, January 2023. Alright. June 2022, they told you to factorize this quadratic. I told you factorization of quadratics is 8 simple steps. Identify A, B, and C. Then you multiply AC. Then you find your factors of AC using the apparent method. Using the pairs only, you add or subtract to get B. B in this case is negative. So for now, forget that B is negative. Which two pairs, when you add or subtract, would you get 9? 4 plus 5, then we don't want b to be positive 9, we want it to be negative 9. So you multiply the entire thing by negative 1, you get minus 4 minus 5 is negative 9. You, in the place of minus 9, you put in minus 4x minus 5x, you get 4 terms. When we have to factorize 4 terms, you take your first two pair, you take your first pair, factorize it, take your last pair, factorize it. Make sure that your brackets are the same. Once the brackets are the same, they go into one bracket, and the next bracket is going to be what is directly outside. Then, when you have to solve a quadratic, they said hence solve the quadratic. This is only one mark. What you are going to do is you're going to take your factorization, make it be equals to 0. You take each bracket, make it be equals to 0, and solve. So x minus 1 is equals to 0. What x would be equal to? If I carry across minus 1, it turns to plus 1. So x is equals to 1. 5x minus 4 is equals to 0. You want to solve for x, carry across minus 4, that's plus 4. Then you carry across multiply by 5, which is divide by 5. That's x is equals to 4 over 5. That is your answer for this question right here. Make V the subject of the formula. You say that W is equals to 5. Now, this is an exception to the rule of going backwards on BODMAS. Why? Because we have a total division by. Right? Because of that, you need to get rid of the divide by, so you're going to carry it across, you carry across, divide by, you get multiply. So W open bracket V minus 3 is equals to 5 plus V. Now, we do not have a divide by, now you could go backwards from BODMAS. Right? W by V is WV, W by 3 is minus 3W. I want V on one side and I want all the other terms on the next side. I have two types of V's. I have WV carried plus V over. You're going to get minus V is equals to carry across 3W. You'll get 5 plus 3W. Because I have two V's, if I have two terms and I want to make it to 1, I'm going to factorize it. W, V, and V have V in common, so V by open bracket W minus 1 close bracket is equals to 5 by 5 plus 3W. Relationship between V and this bracket here is multiplication, so if I want V by itself, carry it across. I'm going to get 5 plus 3W over W minus 1. Again, this is the only exception. Well, there are other exceptions, but if you have like the entire thing is being square rooted or the entire equation is being divided, right? You simply have to get rid of the division first or get rid of the square root first, and then you go backwards from BODMAS. Once you have an equation like this, a flat equation with no overs and square roots, and you find that, it is easy to find out what your unknown is equal to, or what a specific unknown is equal to. Question. The last one we did like this was indirectly. This is directly proportional to, right? The height of an object is directly proportional to the square root of the parameter. So we put the proportion sign. So h is proportional to the square root of p. We know that if you're changing that proportion to an equation, right, that would be h is equal to, you multiply k by whatever it is proportional to. So k by square root of p is k square root p. Then given that h is 5.4, p is 1.44, determine the value of h when p is 2.89. The only thing that you don't know in this question is what is k. Right? So h is equals to k by root p, which is 5.4, is equals to k by root 1.44. So k would be 5.4 divided by 1.2, so k is 4.5. Then they want to know what h is equals to when p is 2.89. So h would be 4.5 by root 2.89, which would be h is 7.65. And that would be your answer for this question right here. And that is the end of what question is this? What year is this? That is the end of what's going on with this thing? Right, that is the end of May, June 2022. So January 2022. Okay, let's go. Um, right. First question, very simple. Factorize 3n squared plus 15np. They do have something in common. They are not square terms. They're not finding a difference. They're not a square root. So 3n squared and 15np, what they have in common? What could go into 3 and 15? 3. What could go into n squared and np? N. So 3n by n plus 5p would be your answer. This one, the diagram below shows a quadrilateral with length of sides written in terms of x, your expression in terms of x for the perimeter of the quadrilateral. Express your answer in its simplest form. Perimeter means distance around, so you're going to add these four sides. When you add those four sides, you're going to get an answer of 12 plus 5p. That is the answer. They told you for part 2, the perimeter of the quadrilateral is 32. That means 12 plus 5x is 32. You want to know the longest side. How to find the longest side? You need to solve for your unknown, which is x, which x would be 4, and then you're going to substitute it into each value and see which one is the longest side. For 15 minus 2x is 7. For 2x minus 1 is 7. For 3x minus 7, 3x minus 7 is 5. And for 2x plus 5, you get an answer of 12. So you know that your longest would be this side here. But I would not use the diagram to try to determine. Yes, I would use the diagram first, but then always check the others because these things are not drawn to scale, so I would not use the diagram as an indicator of which one is its longest. Yeah. Let's go to the next page. What's going on with this thing? Right, last question. This is an inequality question. Now, again, always this one I might have to do in detail. Always read from your letter. But we have divide by 3, so to get rid of that divide by 3 and multiply the entire. So minus 3 is 3. Okay. Multiply the entire thing by 3, so I got minus 1 by 3 is 3. If I multiply 2 minus 4x over 3 by 3, the 3's cancel off. 5 by 3 is 15. So now, this is two separate inequalities because, well, what is two separate inequalities? But they are just written as one. How can I say that? Because there are two inequality signs. So I take the first one, this is minus 3. I don't like to read it, but this is less than 2 minus 4x. And then this one is 2 minus 4x is more than, no, sorry. This is more than, yeah, this is less than 15. I want to know what is x. So I'm going to make x the subject. Right? I always want my x to be positive, but I'm gonna do it with the multiply by -1. Carry across -3, carry across 2. That was -3 by -2 is less than -4x, but I want x to be positive, so I multiply the entire thing by -1. If I multiply this by -1, hold on, that sign not supposed to be like that. My sign is flipped. Right, so the sign would be like this. However, I'm going to carry across 4x. Right, so I got this will turn into 5 over 4x. Yeah, however, I'm reading from my letter to my number. So if I'm reading in this direction, my sign flips. So that's how I got x is less than 5 over 4, which is 1 1/4. Alright, do we understand that, guys? Everyone understands how I did this? Okay, the next one was 2 minus x is less than 15. Again, carry across the 2 minus 4x is less than 15 minus 1. So minus 4x is less than 13. I want my x, or I want my term in front of x to be positive. Multiply this by -1. Minus 4x by -1 is 4x. 13 by -1 is -13. So x would be carry across 4 is -13 by 4. So x would be, again, if I multiply my inequality by -1, instead of less than, it turns to more than. So x is more than -3 1/4. Now they said determine all the integer values for x. You need to understand what is integer values. These are numbers, positive numbers and negative numbers, but it cannot be fractions. So that 1/4 and those quarters will not work out. So when they say integers, what are the integers between 1 1/4, sorry, 3 minus 3 1/4 and 1 1/4, right? We want values more than -3 1/4, so we're looking at values that are closer to 0, so it will be -3, -2, -1, 0, 1. It will not be 2 because 2, we're looking for values that x is less than 1. Right? So the integers for x would be -3, -2, -1, 0, and 1. And that would be your answer. That would be the answers for January 2022. Okay, so we're going to be doing May, June 2021. Okay, so the first question here says find n when t is 49. They told you n is the square root of t, so the square root of 49 is plus or minus 7. Please note when you're finding the square root, especially the square root, the answers are positive or negative. Make t the subject. If n is equal to root t, then t would be carry across square root. The opposite of square root is to the power of 2. And that is the answer for this question. This one here, zoom, zoom, zoom. You need to read carefully. Oh, that is right. Ali, age is X years. So Ali is X. Jim is 5 years older than Ali. So Jim would be 5 plus X. And Chris is twice as old as Ali. That means Chris is 2X. That is the answer for part 1. In 2 years' time, that means the product of Ali's age and Chris' age will be the same as the square of Jim's present age. So in 2 years' time, Ali's age will be X plus 2, Chris' age will be 2X plus 2, and Jim's present age is 5X. So I'm going to multiply X plus 2 by 2X plus 2. Take your first term from your first bracket, multiply by your second bracket. Take your second term from your first bracket, multiply by your second bracket. This one here, you don't need to do that. If you remember perfect square, you find the square root of, you find 5 squared, you find x squared, that's 25, and x squared, and then you multiply 2 by 5 by x, which is 10x. So I did not have to do all of this. If I remember my perfect square, I can multiply this very quickly. Group like terms, right? When you do all of that, you're going to get what they have here. X squared minus 4x minus 21 is equals to 0. Calculate Ali's present age. Ali's present age is x, so they're basically telling you to solve for x. You can either solve it using this method or solve it using your formula method. It's up to you. I factorize. A is 1, B is minus 4, C is 21, AC is 21, factors of 21, 1 by 21 and 3 by 7. Which two pairs, either 1 or 21 and 3 and 7, would you add or subtract to get 4? If I am getting problems with negative numbers, what I will do is I will say deal with the b as positive, x minus 3, and then to change that b into negative, I multiply the entire thing by negative 1, so it's minus 7 plus 3 would give you minus 4. In the place of b, I put in minus 7, x plus 3x, you get your 4 terms, factorize the first 2, that would be x by x plus 7, factorize the second 2, that would be 3 by x minus 7 is equal to 0. When you have equals to 0 solving, you make each bracket be equal to 0. So x plus 3 is equal to 0, x minus 7 is equal to 0. When you solve for x, you get x is minus 3 and x is equal to 7. Obviously, x cannot be a negative age cannot be a negative number, so we know that Ali's age is 7 years old, and that is how you would do this question. Right? And that is the end of May-June 2021. Right, so now we're going to be doing January 2021. Right. So let's go to the next page. The question says factorize. Hold on. Factorize this. We see that that's a little bit fuzzy. 12n squared minus 4mn. This is not both terms are not squared terms, so you know it's subtracting, but it's not a subtraction of squared terms. So we ask ourselves, this is basic factorization. What could go into 12 and 4? 4. What could go into n squared and mn? N. 4n by what would give you 12n n squared? 4 by 3 is 12, n by n is n squared. 4 by what would give you 4mn? 4 by m would give you 4n by m would give you 4mn. Right, then we have this question, show that x over 1 minus x minus 4x is this. Whenever you have a fraction like this and you have to subtract, put all your whole terms over 1. X over x minus 1 minus x minus 4x over 1. Right, then you have to find your LCD, meaning you want to find, you're going to multiply the two, 1 by 1 minus x. How much can 1 minus x go into 1 by 1 minus x? If you divide this, you could go 1 time. 1 could go into 1 by 1 minus x, 1 minus x times. Right? You multiply minus by each term. 1 by 1 minus by 1 is minus 1. Minus by minus 1 is positive x. So you get x plus open bracket minus 1 plus x by 4x. Multiply 4x by 1, negative 1. You get negative 4x. 4 by x is positive 4x squared. So you get x, that's the numerator, x minus 4x plus 4x squared. When you work it out, you want something that has some type of factorization, and you're looking at the answer. You'll get x by 4x minus 3. Your denominator, 1 by 1 minus x, would be 1 minus x. So when you put it together, your numerator is this, your denominator is this, and that's how you get this answer. Hence, solve the equation. This is 2 marks, so it's not that much working, right? I would first, I know this is equals to this. Because again, when you see the word hence, you're using the answers from above to get this. So I'm going to put x by 4x minus 3 over 1 minus x is equals to 0. I want to solve for x. I'm going to carry across, divide by. This will turn to multiply. 0 multiplied by this is 0. So now I have x by 4x minus 3, right? I'm putting my x in brackets. Remember, when you are solving a quadratic, you let each bracket be equals to 0. X is equals to 0 and 4x minus 3 is equals to 0. Make x a subject, you get 3/4. So the answer would either be x is equals to 0 or x is equals to 3 over 4. And that would be your answer for this question here. Very quickly, let me just do this. In your calculator, guys, your calculator is able to solve quadratics, okay? You just need to put it in quadratic. Now, not all calculators could do this. Duly note, you press node, you look for equation because it's a type of equation. You press down, you're looking for quad, which is 2. What is the coefficient of x? When I multiply this, hold on. 4x by x is 4. So the coefficient of x squared is 4. X by, that's minus 3. C, there's no C, 0. So I'm going to get 0.75, which is 3/4, and 0. So you can use a calculator to do it. So again, let's go through that. You click on mode. You click on equation, because the type of equation you're looking for quad, which is 2. The number. It does not have to be 2 in your calculator. It can be something different. They're asking you for a, which is the coefficient of x squared. When I multiply this out, I can see that the coefficient of x squared is 4. The coefficient of x by minus 3 is minus 3. And the constant, there's no constant, which is 0. And I will get 3/4 and 0, so I know that my answer is correct. And you can use this for any quadratics. Right, so please go back. You press on mode and normal 0, and that will carry your calculator back on normal. Right, let's go to a next question. What's going on with this thing? Right, they said to make V the subject. Now, again, remember I told you guys, typically we go backwards on BODMAS, but this entire equation is being square rooted, so we need to get rid of that square root first. The opposite of square root is squared. So I will get P squared is equals to 5 plus VT. Then I go from backwards from BODMAS. Is there subtraction? No. Is there addition? Yes. You carry across plus 5. That will turn to P squared minus 5 is equals to VT, or VT is equals to P squared minus 5. Then addition. Is there multiplication? Yes. The relationship between V and T is multiply. You carry across the multiply by T, which turns to divide by T. So V will be P squared minus 5 divided by T, and that is how you would make V the subject. Right, they like to bring these type of questions as well. If you realize, we saw a lot of these directly proportional to, indirectly proportional to, varies directly, however they may say it. The distance needed to stop a car, D, varies directly as the square of the speed, S. The square of the speed. So they're telling you that D is proportional to S squared, at which it is traveling. A car traveling at 70 kilometers per hour requires a distance of 40 meters to make a stop. So you put that in your you put that in the equation. Please note that not the proportion. To make it into an equation with an equal sign, you change the proportion sign to equal, and whatever it is proportional to, multiply by k. So that's D is equals to k by S squared. You don't know what k is, which is a constant. That is 40 is equals to k by 70 squared. I'm putting the values that they gave me. So I get 40 is equals to 4,900 by k. K would be 40 by 4,900. You can leave it like that or put it as 2 over 245. Then they ask you what distance. So they want to know what D is equals to at a car traveling a speed of 80 kilometers per hour. D is equals to k by S squared. So D is 2 over 245 by 80 squared. You're going to get 52.244899796, or 52.2, and that is going to be your answer for this question here. That is the end of January 2021. Okay, now we're going to be doing January 2020. Okay. First question, they asked to factorize 12 and 5 have nothing in common. So what you're going to do, you just leave it. Then h squared and hg have what in common? H. H by what would give you 5h squared? H by 5h. H by what would give you minus 12hg? H by minus 12g. And that would be the answer. Then they asked to factorize this. Again, identify a, b, c. A is coefficient of x squared 2. B is negative 1. C is negative 6. Find ac, which is 12. Write your factors of 12, 1 and 12. Using pairing method, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Using the pairs, which one can you add or subtract to get b, which is negative 1? Because if we are not good with our directed numbers, treat b as positive. For now, which two would you get? Positive 1, 3 and 4. 1 and 12 cannot work, 2 and 6 cannot work. B is 4 minus 3, however, we don't want positive 1, we want negative 1, so you multiply the entire thing by negative 1, you get minus 4 plus 3. You have 4 terms, you factorize the first 2, factorize the second 2, make sure that your brackets are the same when you factorize those two brackets, and then when your brackets are the same, you make them into 1, so x minus 2 is in both brackets, so that is one bracket x minus 2, and the next bracket is going to be what is directly outside, which is 2x plus 3, and that is your answer for this one. Then we're going to move into the next question. The next question says, solve the equation r. We're going to multiply. That is so fuzzy. Hold on. Solve the equation r. 3 by r is 3r. 3 by minus 5 is 15. So you make r the subject and you're going to get 9. Again, when you're making something the subject, go backwards from BUD mass, please. This one, make k the subject of, this is 2 marks, yeah, make k the subject of the formula. We are going backwards from BUD mass. Where is k? You underline k. Is there subtraction? No. Is there addition? Yes. You carry across plus 3t. So 2a minus 3t is pi k squared. Is there multiplication? Yes. Pi and k squared is multiplying. You carry across pi, which is divided by pi is equals to k squared. Is there division? No. Is there power of? Yes. If you carry across the power of 2, it will turn to the square root of whatever term. So k would be the square root of 2n minus 3t all over pi, and that is your answer for this last part of this question, which is the inequality question. Farmer plants two crops, potatoes and corn, on 10 hectares. So if you add potatoes and corn, they cannot go more than 10 hectares. So potatoes plus corn would be less than or equal to 10 hectares of land. The number of hectares of corn, C, must be 2 times the number of hectares of potatoes. So C is must be for the least, so that is C is more than or equal to 2 hectares of potato, 2p, and these would be your two inequalities for this question. And that is the end for January 2020. And that would be the end of this recording.